The ship docked with the Terran Fleet Station 2 days later. Metal walls and blinding lights replaced the white silence of the frozen world. Ryan felt strange walking through the clean corridors. Alive, yes, but heavy inside. Sarai walked beside him in quiet dignity, her wrists still bound, her glowing eyes calm though the soldiers stared at her like she was a monster. Everywhere they went, whispers followed. That's the Renean. He protected her. They say he risked a court-martial for her. Ryan ignored them all. His only focus was keeping Sarai safe. They were brought before the command council, a long table filled with high-ranking officers and diplomats. Ryan stood tall in his torn uniform. Sarai stood a step behind him, her chin high, her silver-blue skin glinting under the cold lights. An admiral leaned forward, his voice cold. "Lieutenant Hale, you were found in contact with an enemy combatant." "Explain yourself." Ryan took a breath. "She's not my enemy, sir. She's my rescuer." "That alien is a soldier of a hostile empire," the admiral snapped. "Your report says you shared shelter, supplies, even—" He hesitated, glancing at the others. "Physical contact," Ryan's jaw tightened. "We were freezing to death. We did what was necessary to survive." Another officer spoke sharply. "Then why protect her now? Why risk your career for her?" Ryan looked back at Sarai. She met his gaze silently, her eyes soft and bright like the faint glow of their fire on that frozen night. He turned back to the council. "Because she taught me something," he said slowly. "She taught me that the lines we draw, human, alien, friend, enemy, they mean nothing when you're dying in the dark. She could have killed me. Instead, she saved me, again and again." The admiral's voice grew hard. "You expect us to believe she acted out of compassion?" Ryan's tone sharpened. "Yes, because that's what I saw. That's what I lived." Silence filled the chamber. The council exchanged quiet murmurs. Finally, the admiral looked at Sarai. "Renean soldier," he said. "Do you confirm his words?" Sarai's voice was steady, though soft. "He speaks the truth. Why?" the admiral asked. "Why save a human?" Sarai's eyes shifted to Ryan. "Because I could not watch him die. Not after I saw how he looked at me, as if I was more than the uniform I wore." There was something in her tone that silenced even the admiral. Her words didn't sound like defense. They sounded like confession, the council whispered again. Then after a long pause, the admiral said, "Very well. Lieutenant Hale, you will remain under review. The alien will be transferred to a neutral research facility until her case is decided." Ryan's blood ran cold. "You can't just—" Guards stepped forward. "Ryan," Sarai said softly, stopping him with a touch on his arm. "It is all right." "No, it's not," he said fiercely. "I promised you." Her hand tightened on his. "You kept your promise. You brought me to safety. Let me face what comes." The guards led her away, and Ryan stood frozen as the door closed behind her. The silence that followed was unbearable. That night, Ryan sat alone in his quarters, staring at the cold metal wall. His chest felt hollow, his hands restless. He could still feel the warmth of her touch, the quiet strength in her voice. He had no plan, no orders, just a single, burning thought. I can't lose her. The next morning, alarms rang across the station. A containment wing had been breached. Ryan ran toward the sound, his heart hammering. When he turned the corner, he saw her, Sarai, standing surrounded by guards, but she wasn't fighting. She was shielding him. One of the guards shouted, "She tried to escape." Sarai looked straight at Ryan. "No, I came to see him one last time." Ryan moved forward, ignoring the guns. "Sarai, don't—" She smiled faintly. "You humans fight for love." I wanted to understand it. He felt his throat tighten. "Then you do understand. It's what we both fought for." For a long moment she just looked at him. Then softly she spoke words that silenced the entire hall. "You called me your partner," she said, "on that frozen world. I did not know what it meant then." She stepped closer, the guards frozen by her calm voice. "Now I do." Her eyes shimmered, full of light and emotion. "It means you are my chosen one. My heart, my husband." Ryan froze. The word echoed in his mind. Husband. The guards lowered their weapons slightly, unsure what to do. He stepped closer, his voice breaking. Sarai. She smiled through the faintest tears. You cuddled me to survive, human. But your warmth did more than save my body. It changed my soul. The Admiral, watching from behind the glass wall, gave a slow nod. Release her, he said quietly. If there's peace to be found, it begins here. Ryan reached out, and she took his hand, no longer trembling, no longer afraid. They stood there, surrounded by light and silence. Two beings from different worlds, bound not by orders, but by something far older and truer. As the doors opened and the alarms faded, Sarai looked up at him with a gentle smile. You see, Ryan Hale? Even in the coldest world, warmth finds a way. He laughed softly, pulling her close. Then let's make sure it never fades. And for the first time, neither of them felt lost, because they had found home, not in a planet or a people, but in each other. The end. The ship Orion's Echo drifted silently through the deep black sea of space. Its metal walls hummed softly with the rhythm of engines older than most of its crew. Among the many species who worked aboard, there was one who always stood apart, a girl named Lyra. She was from the planet Elnara, a world of silver skies and glowing oceans. Her people were known for their calmness, their grace, and the faint light that shimmered from their skin. To most humans, the Elnaran seemed cold and distant, polite but unreachable. Lyra was no different. She spoke little, smiled even less, and worked quietly at her station in the engineering bay. Ethan, a human mechanic from Earth, often saw her there. He was an ordinary man with calloused hands, tired eyes, and a heart that still believed in kindness. He had joined the Alliance fleet not for fame or adventure, but to build something that mattered. While others saw the Elnaran girl as strange or intimidating, Ethan only saw someone lonely, much like himself. He would sometimes catch glimpses of her while they worked. The way her silver hair floated softly in the recycled air, the faint blue glow on her cheeks when the ship lights dimmed. She always seemed focused, almost lost in her work, her slender fingers moving over the control panels with precision and care. Ethan admired that. She reminded him of people back home. Quiet workers who never asked for praise but carried whole worlds on their shoulders. One afternoon, while the crew was repairing a damaged plasma conduit, Lyra was assigned to assist Ethan. The corridor was narrow, filled with the buzz of electricity and the scent of metal. Lyra knelt beside him, her tools glowing faintly in her hands. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her voice was soft, like the sound of rain tapping on glass. You've done this repair before? She asked. Plenty of times, Ethan replied, smiling, though not with someone as focused as you. She glanced at him briefly, her pale eyes unreadable. I just do what must be done. Ethan chuckled quietly. That's what everyone says. But you do it differently. Lyra frowned slightly. Differently? He nodded. Your hands don't even shake. You work with care, like the ship matters to you. Lyra paused. Her tools stopped moving. It does matter, she said softly. Ethan leaned closer to see what she was doing. The glowing energy line reflected off her skin, making her look almost like a living light. Without thinking, he spoke the words that would change everything. You have steady hands, he said with a smile. Beautiful work. For a second, the only sound was the low hum of the conduit. Then Lyra froze. Her breath hitched, her glowing skin flickered, and her fingers began to tremble. The tool in her hand slipped and clattered onto the floor. Ethan blinked, confused. Hey, I didn't mean, did I say something wrong? He asked quickly. Lyra didn't answer. Her pupils widened. Her glow deepened from soft silver to a faint violet. She looked down, avoiding his eyes, her voice breaking slightly. You shouldn't say such things so easily. Ethan was completely lost. It was just a compliment, he said gently. You're good at what you do. She turned her face slightly as if hiding something fragile. On Elnara, we only speak that way to those we Trust deeply. Her words hung in the air like a secret that shouldn't have been spoken. Ethan didn't know what to say. He had only meant to be kind, but to her it meant something far greater. Lyra stood up quickly, picking up her fallen tool. "I will finish the repair," she said, her voice shaking. "Please, don't speak like that again." And before he could say another word, she walked away, her light dimming with each step. Ethan remained there, staring after her. He replayed the moment in his head. The tremble in her hands, the sudden fear in her eyes, the way her glow had shifted. What had he done? Why would a simple compliment make her react like that? He didn't know it yet, but those few words had touched something sacred in her heart, something that no human had ever reached before. And from that day on, he couldn't stop thinking about the alien girl with trembling hands and eyes full of secrets. Ethan didn't see Lyra for the next 2 days. She didn't show up in the engineering bay, and whenever he asked about her, someone always said she was working in another section of the ship. He told himself it didn't matter. She was probably just busy. But deep down, he knew something had changed. The memory of that moment kept replaying in his mind. Her hands trembling, the way her glow dimmed, the sound of her quiet voice asking him not to say such words again. It had been a simple compliment, innocent and human. Yet to her it had carried a meaning he couldn't understand. He had worked with many alien species before, but none reacted like that. Some laughed when he joked, others ignored his words, but no one had looked shaken by them. And that thought haunted him. On the 3rd day, while he was checking the ship's oxygen recyclers, Lyra finally walked in. She moved quietly, avoiding his eyes as if she hoped he wouldn't notice her. But he did. The soft blue light of her skin gave her away even before she spoke. "Lyra," he said gently, standing up from his workbench. She froze, her back still to him. "Ethan," she replied, voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should bring it up. But he couldn't stay silent. "About the other day, I didn't mean to upset you. I really didn't." Lyra turned slightly, her glowing hair brushing over her shoulder. Her eyes, usually calm and distant, looked clouded with something heavier. Confusion, fear, maybe even sadness. "You didn't upset me," she said quietly. "You just surprised me." Ethan tilted his head. "Surprised you? How?" She bit her lip before answering. "On my planet, words like the ones you spoke, they are not used lightly. When we speak of someone's hands, their work, or their glow, it is a vow of closeness, a promise of care." Ethan's eyebrows rose. "A promise?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, you might not know this, but among my people, touch and words are powerful things. Compliments are not common. We give them only to those we—" She stopped herself, her voice faltering. "To those you what?" Ethan asked softly. Her eyes met his for just a second before she looked away again. "To those we trust with our hearts." The silence that followed was heavy. Ethan didn't know how to respond. To him it had been a kind word between co-workers, but to her it was something deep, something sacred. He tried to lighten the air with a smile. "I guess I've got a lot to learn about Elnaran culture," but Lyra didn't smile. Her fingers brushed the edge of the control panel, glowing faintly as if her energy was unsteady. "I thought humans didn't understand such things," she murmured. "You speak so freely. You give warmth so easily. It's beautiful, but frightening." "Frightening?" Ethan repeated, surprised. She nodded, her voice trembling. "Because we are not used to it. Where I come from, we protect our emotions. We hide them so they cannot be used against us. But when you spoke those words, I felt something I wasn't prepared for." Ethan took a careful step closer, his voice calm and sincere. "I didn't mean to hurt you, Lyra. I just wanted you to know that your work mattered." Her eyes glistened faintly. "That's why it hurt, because no one has ever said that to me before." Ethan's chest tightened. There was no pride in her tone, just quiet pain, like someone who had lived too long without being seen. He wanted to tell her that she deserved kindness, that there was nothing wrong with hearing gentle words. But he stayed silent, afraid to make it worse. Lyra picked up a small tool from the bench and stared at it, her hands still trembling slightly. You think words are small things, Ethan. But to us they are threads that bind souls. I wasn't ready for that connection. He nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his heart. Then maybe I should learn to speak your way. That made her look up at him for the first time since the incident. Her glow flickered softly, like starlight breaking through clouds. Why would you want to learn? Ethan smiled, a warm, honest smile. Because I don't want to make you tremble with fear. I want to make you feel safe when I speak. For a long moment, Lyra said nothing. Her glow steadied, her trembling stopped. And for the first time, she looked at him not with fear, but with something gentler, something like curiosity. Then she whispered, "You already do. Ethan, that's what frightens me the most." Before he could answer, she turned and walked away, her soft glow fading into the shadows of the corridor. Ethan watched her go, his heart heavy yet strangely warm. He didn't fully understand her yet, but one thing was clear. Those few words he had spoken had changed everything between them. And though she trembled, something inside him whispered that maybe it wasn't only fear that made her shake. After that night, everything on the ship felt different for Ethan. The engine still hummed the same tune. The corridors still glowed with their soft white lights, but something invisible hung between him and Lyra. It was silence, thick, fragile, and full of unspoken words. She no longer avoided her duties, yet every time she saw him, she turned away just a little too soon. When they worked together, she spoke only what was necessary. No small talk, no shared smiles, only brief instructions in her quiet, careful tone. Ethan pretended it didn't bother him, but it did. Every time her voice faded, every time her glow dimmed in his presence, he felt a strange ache inside. He missed the few moments when she had looked at him not with fear, but with something softer. He didn't understand why it mattered so much. Maybe because on a ship full of strangers, I've been thinking about what you said before, about letting the bond grow. Her eyes dropped, the glow around her cheeks deepening. Do you still mean it? Ethan wiped his hands on a cloth, unsure how to answer. I meant every word, but only if it doesn't hurt you. She stepped closer, her light brushing against his shadow. You still don't understand, Ethan. Bonds like ours, they don't just fade. Once they form, they change us. They connect thoughts, feelings, and fears. I can already sense your emotions when you are near. Ethan blinked. You can feel me? Lyra gave a small nod. Not your words. Your emotions. Your sadness, your curiosity, your warmth. I feel them like gentle waves. Ethan's breath caught. Then what do you feel right now? Lyra hesitated, her eyes meeting his. Peace, she whispered. And fear, because I know it won't last. Her words hit him deeply. Why wouldn't it? She turned away, looking at the glowing pipes. Because humans burn bright and fast. You love easily, speak freely, and then move on. But my people, we hold every emotion for centuries. We don't forget, even when we try. Ethan stepped closer, his voice steady and calm. Maybe we're different in time, but not in feeling. When humans care, we mean it too. We may not live for centuries, but we give everything we have in the time we do. Lyra looked back at him. You really believe that? I do, he said simply. For a long moment, she just stared at him, the glow of her skin reflecting softly in his eyes. Then she smiled faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. You make it sound so easy. He chuckled quietly. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Her hand brushed against his arm, and for the first time she didn't pull away. The touch was light, almost trembling, but real. Ethan could feel warmth spreading from her fingers, soft and pulsing, like a heartbeat made of light. But then, the intercom broke the moment. All crew prepare for hyperjump in 5 minutes. Secure all equipment. Lyra pulled her hand back, her glow flickering nervously. I should go, she said quickly. Ethan nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah. Duty calls. She turned to leave, but before she did, she stopped and whispered without looking back. When you spoke to me, Ethan, I didn't tremble because I was afraid. I trembled because I wanted to believe you meant it. And that scared me more than anything. Then she walked away, her glow fading down the hall, leaving Ethan alone with her words echoing in his chest. He sat down slowly, resting his back against the cold wall. His heart was racing, not from confusion but from something deeper. For the first time he realized that this bond she spoke of was already growing. He didn't need to see her to feel it. Somewhere on the ship, her heartbeat and his seemed to echo in rhythm. Two lives connected across silence, distance, and fear. That night, as the Orion's echo jumped through light years of space, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of man he was becoming. He had only meant to say something kind, but kindness had turned into connection, and connection had become something he couldn't walk away from anymore. The storm began not outside the ship, but inside it. 3 days after the jump, the Orion's echo entered an uncharted system. The scanners went wild, radiation spikes, magnetic fields twisting like angry spirits, and then silence. The ship drifted through the electric mist, its hull groaning under invisible pressure. Ethan had been working in the lower deck when the alarm started. The lights flickered, tools rattled on the floor, and static filled the air. He rushed to the nearest terminal. "Main power's dropping fast," he shouted through the comms. "I'm losing control of the stabilizers." Lyra's voice came through the crackling line, urgent but steady. "Ethan, listen to me. You need to seal the coolant valves manually, or the reactor will overheat. I'm sending you the coordinates now." "Got it," he replied, grabbing his toolkit and running down the corridor. The entire ship trembled like a living thing in pain. Blue sparks crawled over the metal walls as magnetic waves struck the hull. Ethan could feel the heat building under his boots. When he reached the core chamber, he found Lyra already there. Her glow was dim, her usually graceful hair disheveled, and a deep crack ran across the control panel. "I told you to stay on the bridge," he yelled, "and let you face this alone?" She shot back, eyes burning with determination. "Never." They worked side by side, their movements fast and tense. Ethan climbed up to the valve handle while Lyra rerouted the energy conduits. Sparks burst around them as systems overloaded. Sweat rolled down his forehead. "The handle wouldn't move, it's stuck," he grunted, straining his arms. Lyra rushed over, placing her glowing hands over his. "Together," she whispered. Their combined strength forced the valve to turn. The ship's hum steadied slightly, but the reactor was still unstable. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the core, hitting the ceiling with a deafening roar. Lyra stumbled back, her shoulder seared by energy. "Lyra!" Ethan caught her before she fell. Her glow flickered weakly. "I'm fine," she said, but her voice was trembling. "You must finish it. If the field collapses, everyone will die. I'm not leaving you," he shouted. Her hand gripped his sleeve. "Ethan, please. You can still save them." Her voice broke something inside him. For a moment he hesitated, staring at her pained face, her trembling light. Then he nodded, set her down gently, and ran to the panel. The systems were fried. He ripped open the control box and started reconnecting wires by hand. The energy pulsed through the metal, stinging his fingers. Every spark felt like fire, almost there. He muttered, biting his lip. Behind him, Lyra struggled to stand. She placed her hand on the wall, her light flowing into the circuits. The damaged conduits began to glow brighter, responding to her touch. "Lyra, stop!" Ethan shouted. "You'll burn out your life force." She shook her head, smiling faintly. "My people exist for harmony, Ethan. If I can bring balance, then it's worth it." The energy field stabilized. The roaring stopped. The ship's trembling slowed, and for the first time in what felt like forever, silence filled the air. Ethan rushed to her side. "Lyra, hey, stay with me." Her glow was faint, her voice a whisper. "You did it. We did it." He held her close, feeling her body grow cold against his. "Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. You hear me?" Lyra smiled weakly. "Do you remember what I said before? About bonds?" Yes, Ethan said, his voice breaking. They're strongest. When shared in danger, when two hearts face the same storm. He nodded, tears falling down his face. Then we faced it together. She closed her eyes, her fingers brushing against his cheek. Then we are bonded. Truly. And then her glow faded completely. For a long moment, Ethan couldn't move. The world felt silent, hollow. The hum of the ship returned. The lights flickered back to life, but everything felt distant. He pressed his forehead against hers. You kept your promise, Lyra. Now it's my turn. He carried her to the med bay himself, refusing to let anyone else touch her. The medics did what they could, using every healing system they had. But her alien physiology was different, delicate, fragile. When they placed her in the stasis pod, the chamber filled with soft light again. She looked peaceful, like she was only sleeping. Captain Roan placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. You saved the ship. You both did. Ethan didn't answer. He just stood there, watching the faint shimmer of her pod, remembering her last words. Outside, through the observation window, the storm clouds of radiation faded into the vast calm of open space. And in that silence, Ethan whispered, I'll wait for you, Lyra. However long it takes. The ship sailed on, carrying one man who had learned that bonds once made could survive even the darkest storms. Weeks passed since the storm that nearly destroyed the Orion's Echo. The ship now drifted quietly through calmer space, its wounds slowly healing. But Ethan's heart had not. Every day he visited the med bay, standing beside the stasis pod where Lyra rested. The faint blue light around her flickered softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. It was the only proof that she was still alive, locked in a deep recovery state her species entered when their energy ran too low. The others told him she might never wake up. Some said she had already given everything she had to save the ship, but Ethan refused to believe it. He would sit beside her, talking softly as if she could hear him. You once said bonds mean something real, he whispered one night. That they're strongest when tested. Well, mine isn't breaking. He placed his palm against the pod glass, feeling the faint warmth through it. You didn't just save the ship, Lyra, you saved me. You taught me how much a simple word can mean. He thought back to that day in the engine room, the day he had told her she had beautiful work. He hadn't known that on her world. Such words meant a vow of trust, a promise of connection, and yet she had accepted it. Even when it frightened her, she had stayed by his side. Now, he wished he could take back all the times he hesitated to say what he truly felt. The days turned into nights, and the stars outside the viewport kept changing. But his routine never did. Work, eat, visit Lyra, talk to her, repeat. Some crew members called him foolish. Others admired his loyalty in silence. Then, one quiet morning, the medbay's lights flickered. A soft hum rose from the pod, followed by a shimmer of silver light that spread across the room. Ethan jumped to his feet. Lyra! The pod hissed open, releasing a faint mist. The glow inside brightened, and a familiar voice, weak but clear, whispered, Ethan. He froze, barely breathing. Lyra, you're...